Welcome, beautiful souls, to Real Love, your ultimate guide to transforming those enchanting fairy tale notions into a love story that's deeply authentic and truly lasting. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. In a world brimming with curated highlight reels, it's easy to wonder if real love even exists. Well, I'm here to tell you it does, and it's even more magical than anything you've seen on screen. This audiobook is packed with insights, practical tips, and heartfelt wisdom to help you navigate the complexities of modern romance, build stronger connections, and discover the real love you deserve. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and prepare to embark on a journey that will forever change the way you see love. Don't wait, hit play now, and let's dive into the first chapter of your real-life love story. Chapter 1. The news anchor's voice, artificially bright, was a persistent hum in Anya Sharma's too-quiet apartment. On the screen, a graphic of the Arctic Circle pulsed an angry, deepening red. Another ice shelf, this one off the coast of Greenland, had calved, sending a Titanic-sized slab of ancient ice into the churning gray sea. A familiar, sickening lurch twisted in Anya's stomach, a premonition she'd voiced loudly and repeatedly years ago, only to be met with polite smiles and swiftly closed doors. She picked up a discarded instant noodle cup, tracing the rim with a sum that still smelled faintly of iodine from a late white stain analysis. Her apartment, a rental with perpetually rattling windows, always felt cold, no matter the thermostat setting. A fitting echo, she often thought, of the chill that had settled deep in her bones since the incident. Papers, meticulously annotated research, and maps of receding glaciers formed precarious towers on every available surface. A fortress of vindication she was slowly, painstakingly building. She pushed herself off the worn sofa, the springs groaning in protest. Her reflection in the darkened window showed tired eyes set in a face a little too sharp, a little too pale. She hadn't slept properly and she couldn't even remember. The guilt was a constant hum beneath the surface of her thoughts, a low-frequency drone that vibrated through her skull, louder than the news, louder than the rattling glass. She walked to a small, framed photo on her desk. Her, younger, smiling widely, arms slung around her brother, Rohan. He had that mischievous glint in his eyes that always promised trouble and laughter. Now, only the photo offered a whisper of his presence. The thought sent a fresh wave of cold through her. The phone, a jarring jingle against the silence, made her jump. It was an unfamiliar number, but the area code for Fairbanks, Alaska. A tremor went through her. Who from there would be calling her? She stared at the screen, heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Dismissed, discredited. That was Anya Sharma's official title. What could anyone want? She took a deep, shuddering breath and answered. Dr. Sharma? Anya, is that you? The voice was gravelly, familiar, yet utterly unexpected. Dr. Elias Thorne, her former mentor, the man who had, with a pained expression and a signature, effectively ended her career. Dr. Thorne, she replied, her voice flat, devoid of the tremor she felt inside. To what do I owe the surprise? He cleared his throat, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of years of unspoken words. Anya, I know there's history, but I wouldn't call if it wasn't critical. We've got something out here on the newly exposed part of the Severnia Zemlya ice shelf, an anomaly. Readings unlike anything I've ever seen. And frankly, your models, the ones everyone dismissed, they're the only ones that even come close to predicting the scale of melt. Anya's grip on a phone tightened. Anomaly.
prediction. The words were a siren song, dangerous and irresistible. It was a lifeline or perhaps a rope to hang herself with. Her mind, usually so quick to analyze, felt muddled, torn. This was her chance, her last chance. "What exactly are you proposing, Dr. Thorne?" she asked, the ice in her voice melting just a fraction. "An expedition, Anya. Your expedition. My funding, my resources, your lead. It's remote, dangerous, but if you can identify this source, well, it would mean everything. For you, for science." She closed her eyes, picturing the endless, blinding white of the Arctic, the biting wind, the crushing isolation, and beneath it all, the thrilling, terrifying unknown, redemption. The word tasted bittersweet. She opened her eyes to the photo of Rohan, his smile a silent question. This wasn't just about vindication anymore. This felt bigger. "When do we leave?" she heard herself say. The decision made the moment the words left her lips. A cold dread, far deeper than the Arctic chill, settled over her. She had a feeling she was walking into something far more dangerous than just a scientific anomaly. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting, frozen, for her.
Chapter 2. The twin-prop plane, a tiny metal insect against the vast, indifferent white, bucked through a final pocket of turbulence before skidding to a halt on a makeshift ice runway. Anya, gripping the armrests, felt the familiar lurch of anxiety, or perhaps anticipation, in her gut. The cold slapped her face the moment the hatch wheezed open, a physical assault that stole her breath. This wasn't the sterile chill of her apartment. This was a living, roaring beast. Her boots crunched on compacted snow as she stepped onto the ice, the sky a vast, bruised canvas of twilight blues and purples. A cluster of prefabricated structures, dwarfed by the endless expanse, formed their base. Steam plumed from vents, and the generator's thrum was the only competing sound against the wind's howl. A figure emerged from the largest module, tall and deliberate in insulated gear, hood pushed back. As she approached, Anya felt a strange tremor, a recognition that had nothing to do with scientific data. "Dr. Sharma?" The voice was low, clear, cutting through the wind. "I'm Dr. Kaelen Vance. Welcome to the edge of the world." Kaelen Vance. 40, Anya knew, from the pre-brief, a former military combat medic turned climatologist. The dossier had mentioned exceptional field competence. It hadn't mentioned the way her intelligent, piercing eyes seemed to assess Anya in a single, unblinking glance, or the lean, strong build that moved with an almost predatory grace, even in bulky Arctic wear. There was a quiet strength radiating from her, a calm competence that felt both reassuring and, for Anya's academically anxious self, a little challenging. "Dr. Vance," Anya replied, extending a gloved hand. Her voice felt thin against Kaelen's presence. "Thank you for the welcome. No thanks needed, just efficiency. My priority is safety, yours and the team's." Kaelen's gaze swept over Anya, lingering. Anya felt a fraction too long, before gesturing towards the largest module. "Your team's already inside, and your, riskier methods are already causing some discussion." Anya bristled, a spurk of indignation flaring. "My methods are evidence-based, Dr. Vance, and they're the only ones that led to the initial anomaly detection." Kaelen's lips quirked, a ghost of a smile. "Evidence is excellent. Surviving to report it is better. Let's talk inside. We have an interesting day ahead." The tension was immediate, intellectual, yet undeniably charged with something else. Something that made Anya's skin prickle even in the sub-zero air. Inside, the base was cramped but warm. The small team, a grizzled veteran glaciologist named Ben and a jumpy junior comms specialist, Chloe, offered curt nods. Anya wasted no time pulling up her projections.
The melt rate here is unprecedented. My models indicate a consistent thermal anomaly deep below us. And your proposed solution? Kaelen's voice was calm, but her eyes, fixed at Anya, were sharp. Deep penetrating sonar, then a probe, directly into the fissure the recent calving created. Unstable ice, unknown subsurface integrity. You'd be risking equipment and potentially lives on a theoretical thermal pocket. Kaelen's arms were crossed, a picture of polite disapproval. My theories predicted the smelt, Anya countered, her voice tight with suppressed frustration and a growing, desperate need to prove herself. And the energy readings are escalating. We need to know what's down there now. Despite the friction, Kaelen nodded slowly, a grudging acceptance in her posture. All right, Sharma, your call, but I'm on point for the deployment, every step. Hours later, hunched over a console in the buzzing comms module, Anya watched as the sonar mapped the subterranean ice. Ben muttered about seismic interference, Chloe nervously adjusted frequencies, but Anya's eyes were glued to the screen. The readings were spiking, coalescing. Then a flicker, a blurred image, impossible and undeniable. Not rock, not natural ice formations, something symmetrical. A structure, man-made. My God, Anya whispered, leaning closer. It's a facility. Just then, a guttural roar tore through the base, vibrating through their very bones. The entire module shuddered violently. Chloe cried out as her screen flashed red, critical stability warnings blaring. Outside, the world seemed to groan. Another colossal slab of ice ripped free from the shelf with the sound of 1,000 tearing sails, shaking the very foundations of their temporary home. The new rupture, Anya realized with a dawning horror, had just carved a direct, unstable path straight to whatever ancient secret lay buried beneath them. Anya! Kaelen's voice barked, grabbing Anya's arm, her eyes wide with a different kind of fear. That wasn't just ice. Something down there is awake.
Chapter 3. The icequake aftershock rattled the remaining structures of the base, a constant, unsettling tremor. Ben, the grizzled veteran, clutched a mug of lukewarm coffee, his face a roadmap of worry lines. It's too unstable, Anya. That fissure could close up at any moment, or the whole shelf could go. And leave whatever that thing is to sit and thaw? Anya shot back, gesturing at the sonar image of the buried structure. The symmetrical anomaly stared back at them, a silent challenge. My sensors show a temporary window. The meltwater created a stable enough shaft. We go now, or we might never get another chance. Her voice was tight, her gaze darting from Ben to Chloe and finally to Kaelen. Kaelen stood by the expedition gear, meticulously checking her own climbing harness. It's a suicide mission, Anya. We don't know what kind of structural integrity that facility has, or what it contains. Her voice was low, laced with a calm, military-grade logic that Anya found both frustrating and, she reluctantly admitted, compelling. Every instinct I have screams against this. Every instinct I have screams that this is bigger than just a scientific discovery, Anya countered, meeting Kaelen's gaze head-on. This is why I came. This is why we're here. The silent photograph of Rohan flickered in her mind's eye, a fresh surge of guilt and a desperate, unyielding need for validation, driving her. She couldn't back down. Kaelen held her stare for a long moment, a flicker of something unreadable, frustration, concern, grudging respect crossing her features. Then, with a sigh that fogged in the Arctic air, she nodded towards the gear. Fine, but I'm going with you. Then, Chloe, you monitor surface conditions. Any shift, any sign of collapse, you pull us out, immediately. Her tone left no room for argument. Anya felt a surprising wave of relief wash over her, a strange comfort in Kaelen's reluctant agreement and fierce protectiveness.
The descent into the newly exposed crevasse was a slow, agonizing crawl. Ice shimmered, ground, and wept around them. Anya, tethered to Kaelen and another climbing rope secured by Ben, focused on the beam of her headlamp, pushing down the rising panic. The cold intensified, a primal, ancient chill that seeped into her bones, deeper than anything she had ever experienced. Finally, their boots touched down on a surprisingly flat, dark surface. The air was still, heavy, and smelled faintly of ozone and something metallic, almost preserved. Their headlamps cut through the oppressive gloom, revealing a corridor of reinforced steel and concrete encased in a shell of ancient ice. The walls were covered in faded Cyrillic script and ominous hammer and sickle insignias. "Cold War," Kaelen murmured, her voice tight with professional assessment, but Anya heard the underlying note of unease. Fully contained, for decades. As they cautiously moved deeper into the labyrinthine facility, past rusted control panels and inert machinery, Chloe's voice crackled over their comms. "Anya, I'm picking up residual power signatures. Faint, but definitely here. I'm going to try to route power to local systems, see if we can get some light. Wait, Anya, don't—" But it was too late. With a sudden guttural hum, the facility flickered. Dim, red emergency lights pulsed to life along the corridor, casting long, dancing shadows. And in that eerie, pulsating glow, they saw them. Dozens of figures, slumped over desks, strapped into gurneys, leaning against walls. Men and women in faded Soviet military uniforms, perfectly preserved, frozen in time. A collective gasp escaped their lips. This wasn't just a facility, it was a tomb. Then, in the flickering, bloody red light, a subtle movement. A figure, slumped against a far wall, barely visible in the shadows, slowly, deliberately shifted. A heavy boot scraped on the metal floor. "Anya!" Kaelen's voice was a sharp, urgent command. Instinctively, she shoved Anya hard behind her, pulling a gleaming, wickedly sharp survival knife from a sheath on her thigh. The metal glinted in the red light, a chilling beacon against the dawning horror. The figure in the shadows groaned, a wet, rattling sound, and began to slowly turn its head.
Chapter 4. The groan sharpened into a raspy, hungry snarl. The figure, a Soviet officer with a cap askew and eyes that were nooky, dead white, lurched forward with a horrifying, unnatural speed. It wasn't the shuffling, slow monster of fiction. This thing was propelled by a terrible, relentless momentum, its frozen joints popping and cracking. "Stay behind me," Kaelen barked, her voice calm amidst the sudden terror, a stark contrast to Anya's own heart, which hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. The survival knife was a blur in Kaelen's hand. The reanimated officer launched itself. Kaelen met it with brutal efficiency, not hesitating. She ducked under a flailing arm, the knife finding purchase in the back of the neck, a sickening squelch that made Anya gag. The body seized, then dropped, twitching but no longer moving with murderous intent. Anya stared, aghast at the lifeless, or was it re-lifeless, form, then at Kaelen, who stood, chest heaving, a smear of something dark on her cheek. What was that?" Anya stammered, her scientific mind struggling to categorize the horror. "A threat," Kaelen answered, her eyes scanning the corridor, and likely not the last. She winced, pressing a hand to her left arm. Caught a glancing blow. Anya rushed forward, her medical training, though rusty, kicking in. "Let me see." Kaelen reluctantly lowered her arm. A deep scratch, oozing slowly, ran along her forearm, where a shard of bone or eyes from the struggle had cut through her suit. "Damn it, Kaelen! You should have been more careful." Anya's fingers brushed Kaelen's skin as she peeled back the sleeve, a spark of unwelcome warmth amidst the terror. "Careful gets you eaten," Kaelen grunted, but she didn't pull away as Anya quickly cleaned and bandaged the wound from supplies from her own kit. The closeness was electric, their breathing ragged, their eyes meeting over the makeshift bandage. For a fleeting moment, the horror of their situation receded, replaced by a raw, undeniable connection. Anya felt a profound respect for Kaelen's decisive, brutal efficiency, a primal admiration for her strength and courage. But the moment shattered. From deeper within the facility, a chorus of guttural groans began, amplified by the metallic corridors. More red emergency lights flickered on, revealing more figures, moving.
They're waking up, Chloe's frantic voice screeched over the comms. All of them! The power surge! It reactivated more biosignatures. Anya felt a cold dread clamp down. The microorganism, she whispered, her scientific mind finally connecting the dots. The one causing the accelerated melt. It's in them. It's reanimating them. Her gaze fell to the discarded lab equipment. A microscope. She needed to confirm it. We need to find a secure lab, now. This way, Kaelen ordered. Taking point. There's a blast door schematic on the map I memorized. Follow close. They scrambled, pushing deeper into the facility, the groans of the awakening dead growing louder. Closer. They found a reinforced research lab, its blast door still functional, though stiff. Working together, their bodies brushing, their grunts of effort echoing in the close space, they managed to seal themselves inside. Breathing heavily, Anya immediately went for the lab's ancient but still functional microscope. Kaelen leaned against the sealed door, listening to the muffled thumps and snarls from outside. What are you seeing, Sharma? Anya focused, adjusting the lens. A familiar yet terrifyingly evolved cellular structure bloomed into view. It's a variant. She breathed, a horrifying epiphany. The pathogen. It's the one I detected years ago. The one they dismissed as an anomaly. It adapts to cold. Dormant until thaw. It causes rapid cellular decay in ice, accelerating melt. And it reanimates neural pathways. It's not just a virus, it's an intelligent biological agent. Her voice trembled with the weight of her past failure, the secret shame she'd carried for so long. I saw traces of this once, in a different sample. I didn't pursue it. My career was on the line. I just wanted to be right, to be validated. Kaelen pushed off the door, moving to stand beside her, her presence a solid, comforting anchor. We all make mistakes, Anya. Some just have bigger consequences. What matters is what you do now. She hesitated, then spoke, her voice softer than Anya had ever heard it. I was a medic in Kandahar. Saw things, lost people. Thought it was my fault. Pulled a team out, but not all of them. Carried that for years. Came here to get away from the easy answers, the clean breaks. To be somewhere the rules of survival were simple. Adapt or die. She looked at Anya, her eyes holding a surprising depth of understanding. This isn't your fault, Anya. This is this. Anya finally looked at Kaelen, her own fears reflected and understood in those steady eyes. The warmth of Kaelen's presence, the quiet confession was a powerful, unexpected comfort. The metallic tang of fear still lingered, but a new fragile seed of trust had taken root in the desolate, frozen landscape of Anya's heart.
Chapter 5. Barricaded within the makeshift lab, the distant thumps and growls of the awakened dead were a constant, chilling rhythm. Ben, the veteran glaciologist, was grimly reinforcing the blast door with anything he could pry loose, while Chloe, pale and trembling, hunched over a salvaged Soviet-era console, her fingers flying across the archaic keys. "These logs are heavily encrypted," she muttered. "But I'm finding something strange. Military designations, biological hazard symbols." Anya, meanwhile, was frantically analyzing more samples under the microscope. The pathogen was evolving. She saw minute changes in its structure, a terrifying adaptability. It wasn't just reanimating, it was becoming more efficient, more potent. "It's adapting to lower oxygen levels," she announced, her voice strained. "And there are traces in the air vents, minute but present." Cody Lean, ever vigilant, checked the seals on their suits, her movements precise and unhurried. Her gaze often drifted to Anya, a silent concern etched on her strong features. "We need to know what we're up against, Chloe. Full decrypt, whatever it takes." Hours blurred into a tense eternity. Chloe finally let out a triumphant, shaky gasp. "Got it! Project Kholod. Cold. It's a bioweapons lab, top secret, Soviet era, designed to create a pathogen that could be deployed and then stay dormant in frozen environments, reactivating on thaw. A Cold War weapon, literally. And these soldiers? They were the test subjects." Anya felt the air leave her lungs. Project Kholod, dormant in frozen environments, reactivating on thaw.
The words echoed in her mind, locking into place with a sickening click. She staggered back from the microscope, the truth a physical blow. The faint, unexplainable pattern she'd dismissed years ago, the one that had hinted at something far beyond a simple anomaly, swam before her eyes. It was the same unique spectral signature, the same protein markers, this exact pathogen. She had seen it. She had dismissed it. She had chosen self-preservation over the terrifying truth. A choked sound escaped her. A half sob, half gasp. Her legs gave out, and she sank to the cold metal floor, clutching her head. "No," she whispered, tears blurring her vision. "It was me. I saw it. The first trace. I could have. I should have." The weight of her past failure, magnified 1,000-fold by this horrific revelation, crushed her. The global pandemic, the world freezing over with terror, it was all tracing back to her. Kaelen was at her side in an instant, pulling her up into a tight embrace. Anya's face buried into the cool, insulated fabric of Kaelen's shoulder, the scent of ozone and something uniquely Kaelen, clean, vital, filling her senses. Kaelen's arms were a steel band around her, unwavering, offering a steadfast comfort that Anya hadn't realized she was desperate for. "Your past doesn't define your present courage, Anya," Kaelen murmured, her voice a low, steady rumble against Anya's ear. "What happened then, you couldn't have known the full scope. No one could. We'll face this together. You're here now. That's what matters." In that moment, amidst the chilling reality of Project Kholod and the thumping horrors outside, Anya felt a profound shift. Kaelen's words, her unwavering presence, were a balm to the raw wound of Anya's guilt. It wasn't about redemption anymore. It was about survival, about stopping this. And it was about Kaelen. Anya lifted her head, her eyes wet and vulnerable, meeting Kaelen's, the unspoken understanding, the shared terror, the growing, undeniable love between them surged to the surface. Their breath mingled in the cold air, driven by a desperate need for connection, for hope in the face of utter despair. Anya leaned in, and their lips met. It was a kiss born of adrenaline and fear, of profound respect and burgeoning love, a desperate, passionate promise amidst the chaos. For a fleeting second, the world outside, the gnashing horrors, faded. Chloe's voice, cracking with renewed panic, broke the spell. "Anya, the air purifiers, the atmospheric sensors. The pathogen isn't just in the vents anymore. It's becoming aerosolized. And the ocean currents, it's spreading, actively escaping into the water." The kiss ended, leaving them both breathless, but the silent promise remained. They broke apart, but their hands instinctively found each other, fingers lacing together. The pathogen wasn't contained. It was adapting. It was escaping. And their desperate, fragile love would be tested like never before.
Chapter 6. The air purifiers hummed a futile song against the rising tide of danger. Chloe's frantic warning about the aerosolized pathogen ripped Anya and Kaelen from their desperate embrace, the shared warmth of their kiss chillingly replaced by the Arctic's stark reality. Anya's hand, still laced with Kaelen's, tightened, but her mind was already racing, calculating vectors, analyzing the pathogen's terrifying new trajectory. Aerosolized, Anya repeated, the word of bitter taste, which means it's a matter of minutes until airborne transmission is viable outside these walls. She tore her gaze from Kaelen, forcing herself back to the console. The pathogen spread was accelerating, the global pandemic no longer a distant threat, but a terrifying, imminent reality. Ben, still clutching his improvised barricade, glanced nervously at Chloe. Is there any way to cut off external comms, contain the distress signal to this facility? Chloe shook her head, her face pale. Not from here. We're running on scavenged power. The main comms array is on the surface, and that's... Her voice trailed off, her eyes wide as she stared at her screen. Wait, something's not right with the external feed. A spike. A burst transmission. She turned, her gaze darting between Ben and Kaelen, then lingering, too long, on the grizzled glaciologist. Ben, did you try to send something? Ben's face, usually a canvas of weathered cynicism, suddenly looked drawn, his eyes shifty. Just checking the satellite feed, kid. Standard procedure.
but his hands trembled as he tightened his grip on a metal pipe. Kaelen's voice, sharp and low, cut through the tension. Standard procedure doesn't involve bypassing protocol, Ben. You were explicitly ordered to monitor internal conditions. What did you send? Her stance shifted, muscles coiling under her gear, her gaze unwavering. Anya felt a prickle of unease. Kaelen's predatory grace was now aimed at one of her own. Ben flinched. An SOS. To a private outfit. They owe me. They'll extract us. There's a substantial reward for intact samples. I just want to get out of this alive. His words, laced with desperation, hung heavy in the air, tainted with betrayal. The signal was out, their position compromised. You idiot, Anya hissed, feeling a fresh wave of despair. You just painted a target on our backs. Before Kaelen could reply, the facility shuddered violently. A new, more aggressive chorus of snarls erupted from outside the blast door, closer, angrier. The thumps against the reinforced metal intensified, a sickening drumbeat against their fragile haven. The infected are getting stronger, Chloe whispered, her fingers flying over the console. And I'm picking up a response. It's garbled, heavily encrypted, but it's a warning. Project Kholod is ours. Stand down. We're coming. A modern faction, Kaelen growled, her focus now back on the external threat. They want this. They knew about this facility. A guttural roar, deeper and more resonant than before, split the air, accompanied by a sound like tearing metal. The blast door, previously a bastion, buckled inward. Something monstrous slammed against it, cracking the reinforced steel. Then a new horror emerged, not the lumbering reanimated soldiers, but something leaner, faster, its skin stretched taut over grotesquely elongated limbs, eyes burning with a malevolent, intelligent hunger. This wasn't just a zombie, it was a mutation, a nightmare evolved. Anya, run! Kaelen yelled, shoving her towards the back of the lab. As the door groaned open, revealing the mutated horror, Kaelen launched herself forward, her combat knife a desperate blur. The creature shrieked, its clawed hand slashing. Kaelen bore herself between Anya and the attack, a sickening rip of fabric and flesh. She cried out, a guttural sound of pain, as the creature's claws raked across her side, tearing deep through her insulated suit, blood blooming dark against the pristine white. Anya! Kaelen screamed, rushing forward, but Kaelen pushed her back, a fierce, determined look on her face, even as she stumbled. Go! Get to the main server! Contain it, Anya! Kaelen urged, pressing a hand to her bleeding side, her voice strained but resolute. The blast door groaned, threatening to give way completely. Anya stared at Kaelen, her heart twisting with a terror far deeper than any fear for herself. Kaelen, her protector, her anchor, bleeding and facing an impossible enemy, all to shield her. The pathogen, the mutated horror, the looming global catastrophe, it all hinged on her now. A desperate, impossible race against time, not just to save the world, but to save the woman who had just sacrificed herself for her. Anya looked at Kaelen and then at the gaping maw of the mutated horror, and knew she couldn't fail.
Chapter 7. The metallic tang of her own fear filled Anya's mouth, thick and acrid. Kaelen's scream, abruptly touched short, still echoed in the ruins of her mind, a jagged shard of sound that tore at her every thought. Anya had run, just as Kaelen had ordered, the image of Kaelen bleeding and defiant, battling the impossibly fast, mutated horror burned behind her eyes. It was an image that would haunt her for the rest of her life, however short that might be. She didn't know how long she scrambled through the collapsing corridors, driven by a primal animalistic terror. The facility groaned around her, a dying beast. Walls buckled, ice rained down from ruptured ceilings, and the air grew thick with dust and the cloying, sweet scent of decay. She found herself in what looked like a derelict storage bay, half crushed by a recent cave-in. Jagged ice shards pierced through the ceiling like malevolent teeth, catching the dim, failing emergency lights. The silence here was almost worse than the growls, a heavy, suffocating blanket that pressed down on her, confirming her utter isolation. Her comms were dead, a useless piece of plastic against her ear.
Static, then nothing. Ben and Chloe on the surface were likely gone, swallowed by the shifting ice or the rapidly escaping pathogen. The outside world, oblivious, continued its slow, inexorable march towards an apocalypse she had personally unearthed. Anya sank to the freezing, debris-strewn floor, pulling her knees to her chest, shivering uncontrollably. It wasn't just the Arctic cold that penetrated her bones, it was the chill of absolute despair. Kaelen. Brave, fierce, annoyingly competent Kaelen. Gone. Overwhelmed. Her mind replayed the last desperate look, the desperate push, Kaelen's unwavering command. Come back for me. The words were a fresh torment. She hadn't. She couldn't. Tears, hot and stinging, traced paths down her dust-streaked face. I failed you, Kaelen. I failed everyone. The thought was a lead weight in her gut, pulling her deeper into the abyss of her guilt. Rohan's face flashed in her mind's eye, then Kaelen's. Two people she couldn't protect. Two people she'd let down. The bioweapon, the one she had ignored, the one she had brought to life, was now fully active, escaping into the currents, riding the melting ice, carried by the very air she breathed. She hadn't even truly told Kaelen, not with words. That desperate kiss, a silent, powerful confession, felt meaningless now. A cruel joke played by a fleeting moment of hope in the face of oblivion. I love you, Kaelen. The words echoed in the cavern of her mind, unsaid, unheard, now forever trapped. A scientific burden, yes, but the crushing emotional weight, the unbearable loss of what could have been, was 1,000 times heavier. She was a failure. Always had been. Dismissed, discredited, and now destroyer. The world was doomed, and it was all because of her. She curled tighter, a small, insignificant figure against the vast, indifferent cold, and wished with every fiber of her being that the earth would just swallow her whole.
Chapter 8. The bitter, icy taste of failure still clung to Anya's tongue, but a spark of defiance, tiny but insistent, flickered in the desolate landscape of her heart. She was a glaciologist, a scientist, and if she had unleashed this horror, then it was her burden, her responsibility to stop it. Scraping herself off the freezing floor, Anya stumbled deeper into the derelict storage bay. Her flickering headlamp caught a series of faded schematics plastered to a crumbling wall. Project Kholod. Her eyes scanned the diagrams, her scientific mind, despite the trauma, beginning to re-engage. There it was, buried deep within the technical jargon, a multi-stage containment protocol, a self-destruct sequence, not merely to destroy the facility, but to sterilize it, to burn out the pathogen at its source. A faint, horrifying hope surged through her. It was damaged, of course, the primary interface destroyed, but a manual override? The schematics pointed to the central control room, a location she'd seen on Chloe's screen, now undoubtedly the epicenter of the mutated horrors. As on cue, the distant thrum of heavy machinery vibrated through the facility, a new, unnerving sound. Not the shuffling of the infected. This was purposeful, powerful. The corporate company. They were here. Anya pushed herself onward, her legs burning, her breath ragged. Every corridor was a gamble, every shadow a potential lurking terror. The air grew thicker with the sweet, sickening smell of decay and ozone. Ahead, through a gaping breach in a reinforced door, the central control room glowed with a sickly green light from auxiliary monitors, and within it, a grotesque tableau, hulking, mutated figures, no longer merely reanimated corpses, but monstrous entities with chitinous skin and razor-sharp claws, moved with a terrifying, predatory intelligence. They were dismantling equipment, tearing at the walls, as if searching for something. Or someone. Anya took a shaky breath, preparing herself for a suicidal charge. This was it. Her last stand.
Just as she tightened her grip on a salvaged metal pipe, a sudden blinding flash erupted down the corridor behind her. The crack of a high-powered rifle echoed, followed by a grunt of pain. Human. The corporate team was engaging, their heavy-caliber weapons no match for the speed and resilience of the advanced infected. Then a voice, gravelly but unmistakable, cut through the din. "Anya, go! Control room, now!" Anya whirled around. Kaelen! Leaning against a jagged ice pillar, one arm hanging limp, a bloodied bandage visible beneath her torn suit, but alive. Fiercely, miraculously alive. Her face was streaked with dirt and blood, her eyes blazing with an unwavering intensity, holding a scavenged assault rifle, a corporate team weapon, steady in her one good hand. She had fought her way back. For her. "Kaelen!" Anya cried out, a wave of profound relief washing over her, quickly followed by fresh terror at Kaelen's injuries. "No time, Sharma!" Kaelen barked, letting loose a volley of rounds that tore through a cluster of mutated creatures heading their way. The corporate soldiers, now caught between the two forces, fired wildly. Anya, propelled by Kaelen's fierce protection and the potent surge of hope and love, sprinted towards the control room. She burst in, the stench of decay overwhelming. Mutated infected, larger and more aggressive than any she'd seen, turned their milky eyes on her. A corporate soldier, helmet cracked, raised his weapon. Anya ducked, a wild, desperate cry tearing from her throat. She slammed the metal pipe into the soldier's knee and then spun, bringing it down on the nearest infected, a sickening crunch echoing in the cramped space. Her scientific mind was gone, replaced by a primal need to survive, to finish this. She scrambled past the melee, pushing through grasping claws and flailing limbs towards the central console, a hulking, archaic machine glowing with dead lights. She found the manual interface, a cracked keypad, and began furiously typing, her fingers numb with cold and adrenaline. Behind her, the sounds of battle raged, punctuated by Kaelen's grunts of effort and the sharp crack of her rifle. Each shot was a promise, each brief lull a fresh wave of panic for Anya. "I love you, Kaelen." The words were no longer silent, they were a battle cry, fueling every desperate action. A mutated creature lunged, its claws tearing at her suit. Anya screamed, batting it away with a desperate shove, barely keeping her fingers on the keypad. Kaelen's next shot took the creature mid-lunge, sending it sprawling. Anya risked a glance back. Kaelen was a whirlwind of desperate defense, her face contorted with pain, but her eyes locked on Anya, a silent command to finish what they started. The self-destruct sequence blinked to life, initiating sterilization protocol. But before Anya could confirm, a corporate soldier, seeing her success, lunged for the console. Kaelen, without hesitation, threw herself between them, taking the soldier down in a brutal, efficient tackle, but not before a burst of fire raked across the console, sending sparks flying. "System integrity compromised," the message flashed, horrifyingly. "Manual override required for final engagement." Anya looked at the complex damaged circuitry, then at Kaelen fighting desperately, her strength visibly waning. Their eyes met, a profound unspoken conversation passing between them. Their love, forged in the crucible of this frozen hell, was their only weapon, their only hope. Anya knew, with chilling certainty, that this was their last chance. And she wouldn't fail.
Chapter 9. The console sparked and died, the last corporate soldier crumbling as Kaelen delivered a final bone-jarring blow. Anya, her hands scorched from the arcing electricity, stared at the damaged interface. The system integrity compromised warning mocking her. The mutated horrors were closing in, their roars deafening, their reeking breath fogging the air. Corporate mercenaries, battered but relentless, were regrouping, their eyes fixed on the control room. "It's not working!" Anya yelled, her voice hoarse, tears of frustration mingling with grime on her cheeks. "The detonation sequence is unstable!" Kaelen stumbled to her side, her injured arm dangling uselessly, her rifle discarded. Her face was pale, but her eyes, still fierce, held Anya's. "Then we don't detonate it conventionally," she gasped, her breath coming in ragged hitches. "We freeze it. Override the coolant systems. Flood the core." Anya's scientific mind, honed by years of studying the Arctic, clicked into place.
the facility's extensive ancient cooling system designed to keep Project Kholod dormant. The cryo valves, she breathed, scrambling over fallen debris. If I can manually reroute them, a supercooling sequence. Working with a disparate, frantic energy, Anya tore at panels, bypassing fried circuits, rerouting conduits with a mix of raw intuition and scientific brilliance. Her fingers, bleeding and numb, danced over exposed wires, bypassing the compromised digital interface. Behind her, Kaelen stood as a shield, her very presence a bulwark, her good hand gripping a discarded pipe, ready to fight until her last breath. She caught Anya's eye, a silent message passing between them. You do this. I've got your back. With a final, desperate surge of power, Anya slammed a heavy lever. The facility groaned, a different kind of sound this time, a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through the very ice beneath them. The green lights of the auxiliary monitors pulsed violently, then shifted to a glacial, piercing blue. A frigid gust swept through the control room, a wave of sub-zero air that coated everything in a rapid-forming rime of ice. The mutated infected were closing in. The mutated infected mid-lunge stiffened, their roars dying in their throats as they were instantly encased in shimmering, glassy prisons. The corporate mercenaries, battered but relentless, were regrouping, their eyes fixed on the control room. Now! Kaelen barked, her voice tight with pain but clear with purpose. Detonation! Manual sequence! Anya didn't hesitate. She located the ancient analog trigger, a heavy red button encased in a shattered guard. She pushed it, holding it down. The hum intensified, a crescendo of power building beneath them. Escape route! Kaelen pointed a shaky hand to a fractured vent shaft, barely large enough for one person. That leads to the old ice tunnels. It's a risk, but it's our only way out. Anya nodded, her eyes fixed at Kaelen, her heart a raw, exposed thing. They moved as one, Kaelen half dragging Anya, half supported by her, towards the narrow opening. The ground beneath them began to tremble violently. The roar of the exploding core was a deafening, primal scream that tore through the ice, shaking the very foundations of the world. Now! Kaelen yelled, shoving Anya through the opening, following a split second later. They tumbled into the icy darkness, hands instinctively lacing together, their fingers locking in a desperate grip. The roar behind them became a deafening thunder, a blinding flash of white light. The entire facility imploded, tons of ancient ice and rock collapsing inward, sealing Project Kholod and its horrors beneath a colossal, self-made tomb. They were tossed, battered and bruised, through the collapsing ice tunnels, until they were spat out onto the desolate, snow-covered surface, gasping, shivering, but alive. Their hands, still clasped, were the only warmth in the unforgiving cold. Days later, battered but alive, Anya and Kaelen watched the familiar, welcome sight of an international scientific research vessel break through the ice. Rescue. They were safe. The final scene found them, weeks later, in a sterile, brightly lit conference room. Kaelen, her arm in a sling, sat beside Anya, their hands casually intertwined under the polished table. They were testifying before a global scientific committee, their voices calm, authoritative, detailing the chilling discovery of Project Kholod. Anya, no longer the disgraced glaciologist, presented her data not for vindication, but for warning. Kaelen, the former medic, the silent protector, added her tactical and survival insights, lending a gravitas that commanded respect. This bioweapon, Anya concluded, her gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of the committee, is designed to lie dormant, to adapt. It is a terrifying potential threat, one humanity now, collectively, must guard against. Kaelen squeezed Anya's hand, offering a silent strength. Anya met her gaze, a profound history etched in their eyes. The fear, the sacrifice, the burgeoning, undeniable love that had blossomed in the heart of frozen hell. Their silent promise of a future together, forged in the crucible of their shared ordeal, resonated louder than any words. The world was forever changed, aware of a new, terrifying potential threat. and Dr. Anya Sharma and Dr. Kaelen Vance, battered but unbowed, stood united, not just as scientists, but as a testament to hope and resilience, their love a beacon against the horror they had faced, and the world they were now committed to protecting.
Wow. Just wow. If that chapter didn't leave you absolutely craving more, then I don't know what will. Can you feel the tension? The undeniable pull between Anya and Kaelen? The sheer terrifying scope of what they've uncovered? I told you this book would grab you, and I am absolutely addicted to sharing every single moment with you. You've just dipped your toes into a story that offers so much more than entertainment. Arctic Bloom is about facing your past, finding strength you didn't know you had, and discovering a love so profound it can defy the end of the world. It's the perfect escape, a thrilling ride, and a deeply emotional journey that will stay with you long after the final chapter. So, if you want to know if Anya and Kaelen can truly stop this global threat, if they can find their way back to each other amidst unimaginable danger, and how their love story truly unfolds in the face of oblivion, then you have to keep listening. Don't wait. Dive into the next chapter immediately and let this incredible tale completely consume you. Remember to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments. What do you predict will happen next? And of course, subscribe to Real to Real Love so you're always ready for our next post. New chapters drop every Saturday, so mark your calendars and get ready for your weekly dose of thrilling romance and unparalleled adventure. Thank you for being here. Until next time, keep believing in the power of real love, even in the real world.